What's up? How you doing? Here we are, Tuesday, and today we're gonna have a little steak here, New York strip prime. Got it from Bristol Farms, so we're gonna open it up. Okay, wrap these up like a mummy. So right there. So today we're going to do salt, pepper, garlic, or as my father would say, garlics. I don't know. Then we flip it over, repeat. I remember many years ago watching The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and I don't know how many times he mentioned the cleverness of shampoo companies that put repeat in the directions. So many times. I mean, there's probably somebody out there who's made a video of how many times he says that, or he said it. But there were many times he was fascinated with that marketing concept of repeat. So that's what I'm doing. I'm repeating here. I actually have oregano inside that has been powdered, but I find that one is only good for salads and things like that you don't cook because it burns up. So that's a good looking steak, and I got the fire going over there, so we're gonna cook it up. Not too long ago I was at a place called Cold Spring Tavern. Good food. They had briskets up there, sandwiches, and they were delicious. I mean, they were amazing. Also, the atmosphere was great. They had live music, like bluegrass, country music. Guy had a banjo going, accordion, things like that. So we went up there, we had a bite, and then we continued. But yeah, I highly recommend that place. And I read Cold Spring Tavern. First of all, I'm a big fan of taverns, the old-fashioned ones, you know, from the 1930s, 40s. But Cold Spring reminds me of Cold Spring Harbor out in Long Island, and that was the name of the first Billy Joel album, which, according to him, it was mastered, and I have no reason why not to believe this, because it's kind of high-pitched, but his voice was high-pitched anyway. But anyway, he claims that it was mastered at the wrong speed, and so he sounds like a chipmunk, Alvin and the Chipmunks. But it may have been mastered at a bit higher than normal, but his voice was also high-pitched back then, but not quite the way it sounded on Cold Spring Harbor. Because I'm one of the few people that actually owned an original vinyl record of the Hassles. I had both of them. One of them I gave back to him. I regret it now. I should have kept it, but I gave it back to him at a concert. I put my name inside the sleeve with my phone number, and I thought that was a clever way to get him to call me. So I went there, threw it on stage. He was singing For the Longest Time, and I remember, because we rushed the stage back then, you could do that, and we were the first two rows. They let us go back to your mother. So anyway, they let the first two rows go and go up against the stage, and I was right up against the stage, and I had the album in my jacket underneath. I had this wool jacket, that I would wear all the time back in those days. So, and they didn't frisk you in those days. You went in, they didn't pat you down, make sure you didn't have anything. So I got in there with the album, and just as I got on, as I was going to throw it in the second row, because that's where I was sitting, I was going to toss it all the way across, probably hit him. So I toss it at the time that he's playing For the Longest Time, and I remember watching the album, you know, because I threw it in a way that it would land flat, and it was spinning like this, and it was in slow motion, and finally landed, and it landed next to him, and he was doing some kind of dance thing, which he's not known for, but kind of like the same kind of dancing he does in the video Keeping the Faith, and he was tapping on my rare album. He was tapping on it. Anyway, so the song finishes, and then somebody threw a bouquet, I want to say cactus, but it was roses. And then this guy that looked like Elton John came out. Wasn't Elton John, kind of looked like him though. And I think he still has that guy. So he came out and collected the flowers, he collected my album, brought him to the back. I'm sure after, they were probably like, what the hell is that? He probably said, oh man, who got that? One less copy to worry about. But I put my name inside and the phone number, and I remember the next day, it was a Saturday, and I stayed home expecting a phone call. Every time the phone would ring, there was no caller ID back then. You picked it up and you took a chance that it may be somebody you don't want to talk to. So the phone would ring. I was like, that's got to be him. And it wasn't. I'd be disappointed. And so I stayed home all day. Stayed home that weekend expecting a call. I thought I was going to get a call and go, hey, let me talk to Nick. And I'd be like, hey, it's me. He's like, yeah, this is Billy Joel. I got that album. Where'd you get that from? And then we would meet up somewhere and have a bite. Talk about music and talk about, you know, different things, but primarily music. I'm still waiting for that call. It never came. I was very, very disappointed, because you have to remember, in those days I was a very big Billy Joel fan. Very big Billy Joel fan. So to me, it meant everything if he had called me. And I thought, you know, maybe he would have. I really did. I thought that he was going to sit there and say, let me give this dude a call back, surprise him. You know, he spent this money coming to the concert. He spent money buying the album, which it was the first issue. It wasn't a reprint or a remake or anything like that. It was an official first issued album. And I gave it to him with my number inside. If he still has it, he could still call me, although that number has changed now, so I don't have that number anymore. I had it up until recently though. And I played the hell out of that album. I don't know how many times I played it, but I played it a lot. I had all the songs memorized. And then I said, this would be a good eye catcher. He's going to notice it's the Hassles, and out of curiosity, he's going to be like, oh, let me check out the pictures inside. And then, like I said, I had my name and number inside. So that never happened. If I were a musician, popular like that, thousands of people coming to see me every night, and somebody did that, I'd call. I would show appreciation for that, and I would be kind of like, you know, this would be a fun thing, you know, brighten up the kid's day. But he didn't do it. So, like I said, to this day, I'm very disappointed he didn't call me back. So, I don't think he threw the album out. It was very rare. Maybe he had a copy at his house, but it doesn't hurt to have two copies. So anyway, that's what happened back then. And another thing that happened, I mentioned this before in other videos, but as I'm leaning up against the stage, he goes into another song. Now, I'm all excited. I'm pumped up. He's got my album. He's going to call me. I'm thinking about all that stuff. And then he's singing a song, and he comes by, and he's kind of shaking people's hands along the way. So I said, when he comes to me, I'm gonna grab that hand, and I'm gonna you know, put a vice grip on it. So he comes up to me, and I grab it like real quiet when I'm trying to make a video. So I grab it really tight, like really tight. And the second he felt a grip go on, he shook it off like immediately. But I did get a good grip on there, but his hand was slimy. It was wet. It was from the sweat and everything, and then all the other people shaking it. I must have had like every virus known to mankind. Every virus known to mankind was probably in that palm, and then it went on my hand. But I got a good grip, and then he immediately shook it off, and he gave me a look. Like, it was almost like a cross-eyed look. You know, I have a saved image of it in my brain. So right now, as I'm saying what it looked like, I'm actually having a flash picture in my head pop up. And he went by me, and that was the last time that I came that close to Billy Joel. Now, I've seen him a few times after that. Most recently, last year in Vegas, we had good seats, you know, so I got to see him as an older man now, you know, because, you know, when you see him now, it's like, that's him. It looks like him, and he makes a joke too. He says, welcome to the concert, I'm Billy Joel's father. And some people say Billy Joe. So the other day I was watching a video where he's down in Australia, and he's saying, you know, thank you to the people of Australia, this is, or something like that. But he introduces himself and he says, Billy Joe, I'm Billy Joe. And I'm like, did I hear that right? So I replayed it and I listened. And he said Billy Joe, not Joel, which, because of BJ McKay and the Bear, BJ and the Bear, the show, I always thought, I didn't realize it was a hick name, but I always thought Billy Joe, hey, Billy Joe was a cool name, except for the initials, but I always thought Billy Joe was a cool name. And I remember as a kid when the 52nd Street album came out, that's the one that got me turned on to his music, 52nd Street, and to this day is my favorite. So I remember I was at school and they had it on the desk, and I was looking at it, and at the same time BJ McKay was also a show. So I was looking at it, I go, what's the L for? It should be Billy Joe. Billy Joe. But now I look at it, I go, that's a hick name, Billy Joe. Hey, I'm Billy Joe. So I guess his wife called him, Christy Brinkley would call him Joe. Not his wife now, but she said, how do you take a guy named Billy seriously? I don't know. But what difference does it make? But anyway, that's the story of what happened. And if I ever run into him in real life, like say I go to Long Island and I go check out his motorcycle shop, I will tell him that that was me who threw that album back in, was it 89? Yeah, that was me. And I did not get a response. So anyway, I digress. I'm going to cook the steak now. I get the fire going on the grill, and we're going to have a meal. That's it. Don't forget Cold Spring Tavern. Cold Spring Tavern.